Hi, I'm Andy P., and this is my mom, Carolyn Jean Grover. She directed and edited an upcoming documentary titled Thalidomide in the USA, The Forgotten Survivors, and it's being released alongside Wonder Drug by Jennifer Vanderbes. My mom thinks this very video you're watching was made to promote her film, and that is its purpose, but she doesn't know all the extra stuff I put into making it a short documentary on her life and everything that led up to her upcoming film. Because there were documentaries made on people like Walt Disney, and I'd say my mom is definitely more deserving of having her own documentary than he was. Now, you heard the word thalidomide in the title of her film. My mom herself is a thalidomide survivor. What the hell is thalidomide? Well, who better to tell you than my mom herself?
Thalidomide was a drug that was in use in the world in the late 50s and early 60s. It was a sedative invented by Chemie Grunenthal, which is a German company. It was a miraculous sedative that you could not overdose on. No matter how much you took, it did not kill you. It had a miraculous side effect, though. It was discovered to alleviate morning sickness for pregnant women. It was sold over the counter in many countries, widely used as a sedative, but also for morning sickness.
Thalidomide had not yet been approved by the FDA. For the pregnant women that were given thalidomide, it was later found to have caused terrible, debilitating birth defects on their babies. So what is a thalidomide survivor?
Okay. Don't smile. It was determined that it caused devastating birth defects. And a thalidomide survivor is someone who was affected by this drug. There was a range of effects. Mostly the trademark is bilateral limb defects, missing long bones in the limbs, and also there were lots of documented deformities of the face, eyes, ears, and internal organs as well.
So how was it that your mom, grandma, ended up taking thalidomide?
Okay, so your grandma, which is my mom, she was given thalidomide by a trusted doctor without knowing what it was he was giving her. She was under the impression they were vitamins. He may have said something like, these are as safe as vitamins, and she was always under the impression he took care of her. She trusted him. Doctor knows best. And she did what he told her.
When did she know you were going to be born? Because they didn't have ultrasound, right?
Right.
So she had no idea.
It was completely a surprise, as you can imagine, for most women, for all women back in that day.
Other countries around the world acknowledged the thalidomide tragedy, often providing financial assistance to families that were affected by the drug. In the US, though, the drug companies swept the tragedy under the rug, denying that there was ever thalidomide given to pregnant women prior to its FDA approval. My mom was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1962. Her family moved to Rochester, New York in 1971. Despite growing up with physical disabilities, her special outlook on life, even at an early age, helped her stay optimistic and thankful for her supportive family and for everything she had.
I had a nice childhood. I had a family that loved me. I have memories of certain relatives who just thought I was amazing. And those I carry with me to this day. I would say, though, that my education was terrible. I was not allowed to go to public school, and it wasn't until we all moved to Rochester, New York, that I was allowed to go to public school, and that coincided with some legislation as well in 1973, and I was allowed to go to public school in 6th grade. The biggest adaptation that my parents contributed to was my bilateral prostheses. They helped me really to walk farther, do more stuff, and that was expensive. I remember that being a bit of a sacrifice for my family to be able to afford those.
She was surrounded by great family members, and one of them being her younger brother, Don. But, inevitably as siblings do, they got in a few tussles in their younger years.
Okay, so I remember my brother and we used to fight when we were little. And I just got really, really mad at him one time. And I remember I bit him. And I got spanked with the paddle for that. And I deserved that one. I bit him really hard. And he was little. He was only, I think he might have been 2. Oh my gosh, that makes me sound so awful.
But other than that, you think you were a good kid? I mean, you got in trouble once in a while, but for the most part, you were good?
I think so. I think I was a good kid.
She was a bad kid.
Okay. Did Uncle Don cry after she bit him?
I'm not sure. That was a long time ago.
So when she saw that you were mad at her for doing that, did she know that the paddle was coming?
Oh, yeah. But she never bit him again, I'm sure. Well, she was really friendly with everybody, you know, everybody who, whether she knew them or not, she liked everybody. When she was about 5 years old, she was a good ventriloquist. She would take her Danny doll to kindergarten and perform for all the little kids. And I think they believed it was real. Was
she able to make it talk without moving her mouth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was good.
As my mom grew up alongside able-bodied kids in her neighborhood, she was fully accepted, and she was often seen as a leader. She didn't have a full grasp on the fact that she was disabled until her first attempt at entering public school.
My mother, I remember, took me over to meet with the principal there. And he just I just remember the way he was looking at me. He was sitting across his desk with his arms folded, and he was just looking me up and down. And pretty much his answer was no before he ever even talked to me. I don't think he even did talk to me. He talked to my mom and told her, we can't guarantee her safety here. She's much better off in a school with disabled children. I realized something's up here. You know, me going along in my childhood, having fun playing games, leading games in our neighborhood, that was really not who I was. Who I was somebody that made a principal sit across his desk and look at me like that, you know? I was okay with who I was from early on. And when I couldn't do things, I found other things to do.
That idiotic, sorry excuse for a public servant may have opened my mom's eyes to her disability and to the more judgmental side of society, but it also steered her into leaning more into her amazing artistic talent.
There's definitely artistic ability in my family. My mom and my dad were both artists. The difference here was that they had the talent and they passed it along to me, but they never sat for hours and hours working on it, which is what I did because I wasn't out running, playing sports or any of that stuff. So I really did develop that part of my identity. I had a lot of good feedback from people all along the way, but I remember there was an art show and I was in 9th grade. It was a Scholastic Art Awards show and I did very well in that show. And I remember feeling really amazed because I realized that the judges did not know who I was or that I had a disability, but I still got first place. I realized that was the truth. That was about as unbiased of a truth as I was going to be able to get.
Do you remember when Mom won the Scholastic Art Award?
Yes, she won more than one. She won several. And, of course, I was proud of her for that, but not surprised because she was a good artist. And I guess we expected her to win.
Throughout my mom's years in school, from what she tells me, it sounds like she had it easier and had an even better time than I did. And that's mainly probably because compared to her, I was a goddamn dork.
I do think that high school was a positive experience for me. My entry into regular education was a very good thing. You know, the years that I was able to go to public school, I had a good time. I miraculously escaped bullying. I can remember kids trying to bully me a couple times, and I would be amused by what they were saying, and they were disappointed. That's not the target they were looking for. I've been laughing about myself all my life. So laughing is like one of my favorite things to do. And in high school, I can remember one of the funniest people I know is Suzanne, my friend Suzanne from high school. And then she and Melissa and I were walking somewhere in the school one day, and one of them said the word guffaw about somebody else laughing, and it just struck me funny. And I said guffaw, and I sort of laughed, and then I fell, which I did pretty often with my prosthetic legs. I just tripped and went careening forward, fell. Melissa and Suzanne were paralyzed with laughter for minutes and minutes, and I'm sitting on the floor laughing as well, but I couldn't get up by myself, so I needed them to help me get up, and they could not stop laughing.
And it struck your mother as being one of the funniest words she'd ever heard. I don't know, just pull it out of the vocabulary list. I don't think it sounds that funny, but she started laughing and shaking, and she put her hand on the wall, and I kept walking, and then I turned around and realized she was gone. She doesn't ever fall backwards. She fell down face first, and she lay there on the ground, still laughing, and her little arms and legs were going, and she looked like a turtle. But she goes, "You gotta help me back up." So we got her back up and ready to go, and something about guffaw, and she starts going again, holding onto the wall, and it's like, so I've stricken that from our conversation. I don't say guffaw to her anymore. A common theme in school, that people thought that she had to be handled with kid gloves, and that she was so special and she would break and she was fragile. And I thought, she knows her situation. This isn't like a surprise. She doesn't wake up every morning like, oh my God, her arms and legs are so different. She wanted desperately, and in school, how they have most likely to succeed, most charming couple and all that. So she started a campaign. She wanted to have the distinction of being silliest walk. So I got out there on my soapbox, and anybody who would listen, I would say, gotta vote for Jean, silliest walk. And there was a woman named Stephanie, and she pulled me aside, I thought she was a friend, and she laid me out something fierce. How dare you say that about Jean? How mean. And she went on and on about how terrible a person I was to make fun of Jean. And I said, I just remember now saying to her, you don't understand, it's her idea, it's her idea. You couldn't conceive of the fact that she was like okay with being different. She was academically sound, but I did know from some of the awards and accolades she got, and being written up in the newspaper like that as some of the sculptures she had done in art class, she was always called upon to do her artwork. I thought it was funny, it put my penmanship to shame. I'm left-handed, so I've always used that as an excuse that I have lousy penmanship because I'm left-handed. And she said, yeah, well, what's your excuse now? And she has beautiful penmanship. And that was, I'm sure it came from the fact that she has a heart of an artist.
Her schoolwork was always good. She was always good at that. Came easy for her.
Was she a better student than Uncle
Oh,
Don?
yes. Absolutely.
My mom later graduated with her bachelor's from RIT in graphic design. Out of school, she was hired by a marketing consulting firm. She started her graphic design freelance business. She got married. That didn't work out. But she also had her first 2 kids. Twins. Born on her birthday.
Oh my gosh. I thought, how will she ever take care of 2 of them? She did.
So when you found out you were pregnant with twins, were you scared or nervous at all, or were you more excited that you would be having to raise 2 kids at the same time?
Right, yes.
Because I would be pissed.
I wasn't, not that, but I was surprised. I was expecting the news that I was pregnant, but it wasn't just 1, it was 2. And I remember thinking, what a strange irony that God would give me half the arms and double the babies. Yeah, one of the things I always wondered was, how is this motherhood thing going to work? are the kids going to be traumatized or compromised or shortchanged in some way by having a disabled mother? And I was always concerned about, are they going to be okay with me meeting their friends and all of that stuff. So here we are at Mother's Day in preschool. And I remember going in and it was so cool. It's like all the mothers got a corsage from their child. But I had 2 corsages. I was like I just thought, this is really awesome. I'm the only one with 2 corsages. When I went in and all the kids came in then, right away, the kids sit down and then they notice me and then they're like, oh, what happened to you? What happened to your arms? And then they realized that I was connected to you and Jake. And they're like, what happened to your mom? What happened to your mom's arms? And I think you looked a little bit at a loss. But Jake stood up and quieted everyone and he put his arms up like this. And he's like, listen, everyone, this is my mom. And she is an artist and she can feed herself. And everybody was just quiet. They were quiet. He took control of the room. And that was the last day that I ever wondered if things would be okay.
I was a really odd kid. I just decided to stand up and say, everyone, this is my mom. And if you don't like it, f*** you. I was proud that she was my mom. When did you realize she had a disability? Like I knew, but I thought it was like normal, Like I thought it was just like a different type of human, you know what I mean? Like
a different variant of
right. I thought she was a different variant, like it wasn't like one time where I'm like, oh, she has disability. No, it was just like progressively. I don't know why I did that. That was dumb. And it's also a testament to how independent she is, where I didn't think anything was, like quote unquote wrong with her, She does everything that an able-bodied person can do and more. I mean, she could do more than me. She's better than me. Period. She's just better than me in every aspect.
Guess what? My mom didn't just stop at me and Jake. 6 years after we were born, she welcomed her 3rd child, Priya, into the family.
The adoption of Priya was not something I had intended to do necessarily. I had never really thought much about adopting, but I had a friend at the time who was just one of those people who had adopted like 20 children. She happened to be talking to me and she's like, there's this little girl in India who's had a couple of adoptions fall through and she's adorable, and the thing that seems to be stopping a lot of people from adopting her is that she needs a wheelchair. She needs an accessible house. And I'm thinking to myself, I have a wheelchair, I have an accessible house, I have a van, she would fit right in. And that really sparked my interest. Plus, I was really taken by the idea that she had had a couple of adoptions fall through. And I'm like, no little 2-year-old should have that happen to them. Priya was able to go from a place in India where she would have had a future of, I understand, probably never having a wheelchair, possibly never being employed, and crawling on the ground, to a life here where we were able to give her all of the things she needed for access. And she took that and made the most of it.
There's so much about who I am as a disabled person, as a disabled woman, that was really, really guided through how she raised me. And something I've always just loved was there's never a moment in time where she, sat me down and said, this is what it means to be disabled. This is what it means to be a disabled woman. It was always showing me what it means to be a disabled woman through her own actions. And that really not only taught me a lot about disability and the intersections of disability and womanhood, but also gave me room to find my own spot within those intersections. One thing I can really point to, though, is, I remember not necessarily feeling self-conscious, but maybe more angry and frustrated about the fact that people were always staring, and were always just looking and I couldn't go into a public space without somebody looking at me at some point. And you know, we were having a conversation, I believe it was at the mall of all places, and she said to me, you don't know why people are looking, right? Sometimes it could be because you're disabled and they are, you know, looking because you're different, right? And you're quote unquote weird. But other times it could be because they think you're beautiful, or because they like something you're wearing, or, you know, the way you styled your hair. And that was really like a moment where I had to pause and be like, oh, okay. And I will fully admit at the time, I'm like, okay, yeah, Mom, whatever. But then pretty soon after that, there was, I believe we were in a restaurant with a buffet, and a kid had come up to me and was just staring at me, as kids do. And then all of a sudden he goes, you're really beautiful. And like, I was not much older than he was, but it was just like, wow, she was really right, you know? I had no understanding why this kid was staring at me, but he then shared, and it wasn't the reason I was expecting.
With my mom's first marriage behind her, she was essentially raising me, Jake, and Priya by herself. And especially at the time, I felt like I didn't need another parent. She was always patient, supportive, and led amazingly by example. But in 2003, she met Keith.
I was introduced to someone by a mutual friend. He did not live in the area. He lived across the country in Colorado, and we pretty much had a phone and email-based relationship for some time. We met each other face-to-face eventually later that year and continued our correspondence. And then we met again in October, and he asked me to marry him then. And all I can say is, when you know, you know. And a little later, he moved across the country to marry me. And all I can say is everyone should have that happen to them at least once in their life, that somebody's willing to move across the country to marry you.
Keith was a great addition to the family. He stepped in and helped my mom raise us, and he broadened all of our horizons in terms of living life to the fullest. Also, my mom was 40 years old and she was done having kids, and, you know, she wanted to relax and enjoy life. Nah, I'm just kidding. At 42 years old, she welcomed her fourth child into the family.
I can honestly say before that, I felt sad that my kids were getting older, and pretty soon I wouldn't have any babies anymore, and then I had another one. So that worked out just fine.
When I was little, Mom always would encourage me to be myself and do whatever I wanted, and what I wanted to do was be just like her, and I guess like Priya as well, because I was under the impression that I would grow up to be just like them. So I used to say that when I was a teenager, I would get my wheelchair just like Priya had, and I'd be just like her, and then when I was all grown up and a full-grown woman, I would get my scooter just like Mom. And I just thought that was the norm. I didn't think anything else would happen to me, but yeah.
You had no aspirations outside of getting your scooter as a full-grown woman?
Yeah, I guess. That was the definition of maturity, I guess, for me. I think it goes without saying that any ounce of independence I have is because of her. Yeah, she was insanely nurturing to me when I was little and was the best mom ever, but a lot of the things she taught me to do were on my own, just for the fact that she couldn't do a lot of them herself. I feel like she just raised me into a person that had to do it and knew how to do it, so I've always been more confident in that sense, just because of how she is. And
her mode of being most of the time is a happy person and a laughing person. And I thought, the only time I ever heard her get even the slightest bit emotional about something, I've never had her be at the point where she's sad. We don't watch movies together where we're busting up and crying over something, but she sent me a text right after Keith had died. And I called her and I said, oh my God, this is terrible. Tell me what happened. And at that moment, she was sort of upset, and she was crying a little bit, and it's just struck me. I'd never known her to be sad, ever, about anything, so it takes a lot to get her down.
After meeting Keith, things were going smooth for my mom and our family for a long time. But after a series of prior health complications, it was in 2015 that Keith's health started to noticeably decline because of peripheral vascular disease. He started to lose the ability to move like he used to. He lost the ability to go for walks, to support Sarah at sporting events, and eventually he lost the ability to drive, which he loved to do. In 2019, he was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. In 2022, he died of a heart attack.
We spent a lot of those last months with him, just seeing everything about it, and not once did she really lose her crap. It was a lot to take in, and there's still a lot to probably talk about and think about that whole part of my life. But yeah, she was definitely the only person that I would have wanted with me in that situation, because she made the best of it.
It was something that the whole family pitched in to help with, which was really, really awesome. For Sarah, I really do feel that it shaped her decision to go into the medical field, which she is trying to do in college. We all cared for him during his last days and really made his last days his best. His wish is to have his ashes scattered from Pikes Peak, and we're planning to do that as a family this summer. And I think that would be nice closure to a very, a sad chapter.
And then Daddy gave Mommy a ring, and Mommy gave Daddy a ring. The end.
Yay! Very good.
Another one?
Yeah.
That was very good, Sarah.
Okay, once upon a time.
During Keith's more difficult days, and even after his death, as my mom does, she pushed forward. No matter what she has going on, she always seeks to keep improving. When it comes to her long graphic design career, at 60 years old, she considers herself to be at the peak. This is evidently seen in the multiple marketing awards that she's won for the Villa of Hope in the past few years. Kind of just say, you won a lot of awards in the Rochester area for your marketing expertise. No, just say it. Those are just facts,
Say it.
I kind of did just say it, so I could just put this in.
Yeah. Working for Villa of Hope, I think I honestly didn't realize where I stood in the marketing community until those awards.
Yeah, she won Marketer of the Year 50 years in a row.
Yeah, the Marketer of the Year was 2 years in a row, and then it was about 3 years of pretty good coverage for us at the awards.
I don't think she ever takes a day off. You know how, I can't speak for you, but for me, I need a day off. I need at least 2 days off. I need 3 days off, 4 days off. I need a whole week off, But she is constantly doing stuff, and she doesn't seem to be unhappy. She seems content with just doing, a whole bunch of stuff 24/7. And I can't even comprehend her work ethic. I can't do what she does. She's incredible.
I think that a lot of people in today's society really view disability as a negative thing. Mom not only shows and embodies what it means to be a proud disabled person, but then she also, challenges the stereotypes of, disabled people not working, not being productive in society, not having kids. And I think that's one of the things that I most look up to her about and for. She is inspirational because she is able to juggle all these different aspects of herself and do it seamlessly and with grace. I know that I learned a lot from her, but I think society really needs to learn a lot from her and what it means to be a disabled person.
As you can see, she's accomplished a lot throughout her life, and she continues to accomplish whatever she sets her mind to. With my mom being a thalidomide survivor, life could have been a lot harder for her, and frankly, a lot worse for her. She looks at all the assets throughout her life as blessings.
I'm blessed with the family that I grew up with, the fact that they had means, that they were a middle-class family and were able to help me accomplish some goals. I feel blessed with my mental health, that I do tend to look on the bright side. It's just the way things are for me. So if that's called being dealt a better hand, then I am thankful for that. It's all in the way you look at it, I think.
She's just been through the ringer, kinda. And that's another thing, how she's always super optimistic. I brought this up to her. I'm like, Mom, how are you still happy all the time? Like, you've gone through so much in your life. You're freaking disabled. Like, how you just find the best in everything. And she knows that. And I think it will pay off for her. I know it will.
I am proud of her for all she has accomplished. I guess I hope she will continue to do what she's doing as long as she can do it. And for the rest of her life.
My requirement for friendship, to call somebody truly a friend, is somebody that I know I could call at 3 o'clock in the morning to come bail me out of jail. And they would do it. Not that I do that, but that's important to know that there's somebody who would be there for you. So Jean would be right there.
Across all of the US thalidomide survivors, the struggles they faced growing up varied. A lot of them needed multiple surgeries to simply live pain-free. Some faced discrimination from their own families. Some dealt with severe depression and anxiety. Some pushed through years of bullying. At this point in all their lives, they share a common fear and uncertainty of what the future holds.
Most people are uncertain about how independent they are going to be able to remain as they age. They're looking at situations where they could end up in institutions. And we have people who are living at the poverty level. There are some significant difficulties. I know there's one individual who had to have spinal surgery because of overuse of his neck. Body parts are not made to do what we do with them in order to compensate for not being able to reach things, or short arms, or there's a lot of bodies breaking down. We are hoping for a recognition. We are hoping to educate our community. We are hoping to appeal to members of Congress for assistance to US thalidomide survivors that will help us age with independence and dignity. It's really not a big ask. There are not that many of us, relatively. We're looking at probably 100 American citizens. And we don't have that much longer to live. We're 60 years old. We're just looking for a little bit of help based on what has happened to us. I am hoping to do the best for my family that I can. I am hoping to do as much good in the world as I can. Continue to pursue my connection with God, and to be, I guess, to die a good person. I think that's would ultimately be my hope. Though I want to do some living before I die.
Thalidomide in the USA, The Forgotten Survivors, directed by my mom, focuses on the stories of the US survivors and pulls a lot of information from the Random House publication Wonder Drug, The Secret History of Thalidomide in America and Its Hidden Victims by Jennifer Vanderbes. A groundbreaking new book that reveals the previously unknown extent of the thalidomide tragedy in the United States. 6 years in the making, this long-awaited expose relays the shadowy story of the drug's Nazi origins and the heroic feats of the dedicated doctors, parents, and journalists around the world who fought to expose the drug's dangers. Most important, drawing on thousands of pages of court transcripts FDA records, and archives on 2 continents, Jennifer Vanderbest details for the first time ever the extensive distribution of thalidomide within the United States. Having traveled the country to meet those injured by the drug, Vanderbest gives voices to the survivors, including my mom.
Yeah, that was good, yeah.
Why did I ever do that?
Wait, did you look at the camera?
I can't see. I look in 2 separate directions.